Good morning. Thank you for joining us for Midday News. I'm Thalia Hayden, and as we just heard, President Biden encouraging people who are not vaccinated against the coronavirus to do so, which comes hours after the Food and Drug Administration gave full approval of the Pfizer vaccine. The president saying weekly vaccination rates are up 60% since last month. Also new at 11, the CDC says people who may be at risk for severe illness from COVID-19 should not go on a cruise regardless of their vaccination status. The agency says the chance of getting COVID-19 on cruise ships is high and outbreaks have already been reported. That means people with underlying medical conditions, pregnant women, elderly, should avoid cruises at all costs, even if vaccinated. The CDC also recommends cruisers get tested 1 to 3 days before and 3 to 5 days after the trip, regardless of vaccination status. The agency warns that people who are not fully vaccinated should not go on a cruise, but if they do, they should self-quarantine for 7 days after travel and get tested as well. Medical workers overwhelmed with rising cases of COVID-19 now facing staffing shortages. According to the New York Times, nurse numbers in hospitals have gone down since the pandemic began. Many have retired early or have taken less stressful jobs. Hospitals now having a harder time caring for COVID patients. The Times says 1 in 5 ICUs are at least 95% capacity, making it difficult to care for those who are very sick. As healthcare workers are having to work overtime to make up for the shortages, a new survey shows more than half of healthcare workers are experiencing burnout. Ivan Rodriguez has the story.
For many healthcare workers, the stresses of the last year don't seem to be going away anytime soon.
We saw some really bad things over the course of the last year.
According to a report by the National Academy of Medicine, even before COVID-19, more than 50% of clinicians treating patients reported that they had experienced burnout. Dr. Camilla Sasson with Kaiser Permanente says a lot of that stress comes from the unknown of what the future holds.
We have that sort of post-traumatic stress disorder of or anxiety of hey, look, things were bad before. We don't want them to get there again.
As Colorado's hospital capacity is ticking upwards with more Delta variant cases, mainly within people who are unvaccinated, many doctors are feeling stuck in a cycle.
I think there is some level of frustration probably in that, oh, well, this could have been prevented. And I think that's something that a lot of folks are dealing with right now.
This is leading many to suffer from burnout.
We've seen more workplace stress, and we've seen the inability to manage it at the same time.
Zach Boden-Weber says there are 3 main symptoms of burnout: feelings of energy depletion and exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, and reduced professional efficacy.
The worst thing that happens is when people leave their job physically, but not mentally. And now they're at home replaying scenarios of what happened.
What can help with burnout is stress management, but most importantly is creating an environment where healthcare workers can share how they feel.
I want people to know that burnout is not a personal weakness. And that is a really, really unfortunate stigma.
With no signs of fewer patients coming into the hospital, it's these suggestions that could keep the workforce healthy and able to do their jobs.
I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of us still have to think what we're doing is important.
That was Ivan Rodriguez reporting. States that have the highest rates of COVID-19 infection from the Delta variant also have the highest level of burnout. Also new at 11, New York police are searching for the suspect who punched an Asian woman in the head. This is him. They say this man hit the 52-year-old mother while she was walking with her 11-year-old son on Sunday. A source says the suspect told the woman to get the F out of here and go back to her country. Emergency responders treated the woman at the scene. No arrests have been made. The NYPD's Hate Crimes Task Force is investigating the incident. And yet another child shot and killed in a moving vehicle. Police in Tampa, Florida are looking for the person responsible for the death of a 4-year-old. It happened last night. Police say they don't believe the shooting was random, but it's not knowing who was targeted or why. No suspects are in custody, and the investigation is in the early stages. All right, moving on to Jerry, who is here to give us a look at Monday forecast. The weather was pleasant. This morning was gorgeous.
Yeah, over the weekend, temps are below average, and that trend continues today. Then we see the numbers move up, and we'll see some changes. I'll explain.